sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate.
Hello, I'm Claudrine Jackson, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. Hopefully, we will say something that comforts you and share some things that are of interest to you. And my greeting is grace be to you and peace from God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. That's from Galatians 1 and 3. And I think it's a beautiful greeting. I am the author of 3 books, Let There Be Light, Inspired by Autism, and my 3rd book is on the internet. It's called A Spoonful of Comfort also. It's a blog. And the show, A Spoonful of Comfort, came from the name of my blog, which is A Spoonful of Comfort. So if you go to aspoonfulofcomfort.org, you can read my blog. You can also see some of the artwork that my son created. You know, I talk about my son's disability. He cannot read, write, or talk, and he's 42. He has autism. And I try to share what he can do because there are so many things that he can't do. And I want to say thank you to the Autism Collaborative Center at Eastern Michigan University. Not because we gave them money, but because they do things for people with autism that weren't being done when my son was born back in the 70s. The Purvis Jackson Jr. Autism Foundation was founded to help lower income children with handicaps in the we started for the state of Michigan, but it somehow became national. So the Purvis Jackson Autism Foundation helps children with handicaps, just autism, any handicap. We send them to camp. We help pay for treatments. We help pay for therapies. We do the things for the people that get lost in the shuffle and fall through the cracks, and the invisible people that you'll never see. So please remember the Purvis Jackson Jr. Autism Foundation, pjjraf.org. That's pjjraf.org. There you can contact us if you need help from the foundation. And you can also make a donation to the foundation by sending a donation to Post Office Box 04422, Detroit 48204. We've been focusing on Black History this month because this is Black History Month. And so many of the things that our ancestors did do not need to get lost in the shuffle or blown away in the wind. We need to repeat things that they've done and resurrect some of what they've done, because it's inspiring to know that they were up against great obstacles and they still accomplished a great deal. I want us to be inspired, but I also want us to remember, to be proud. We can be proud of all that Black people have accomplished in the short time since we've been allowed to read. And if you're not inspired to speak out or do anything, at least be inspired to be kind to others. The most important part about Black history is for those of us who need inspiration, who need something to look at and say, if they accomplish that, then I can accomplish what I want to accomplish. Martin Luther King, everyone knows about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, famous speech, I have a dream. In his famous speech, I have a dream, he said that he wanted the day to come when everybody could walk hand in hand, when we could be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And when we got a Black president, we thought that day had come. But we see there's still a lot of work to do. And Martin Luther King said that the struggle would not be over. We would have a lot to do. So I want to resurrect some of the words of one of our famous black authors, Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes asked what happens to a dream deferred. Now, Martin Luther King wrote, I have a dream. Langston Hughes wrote, what happens to a dream deferred? What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? I too wrote something about a dream. Mine is called I Had a Dream. And Martin Luther King would be the first person to say that he didn't want people to quit having dreams when he died. He wants us to continue to dream and continue to move forth. My poem, I Had a Dream, is my thoughts about how hard it is for a dream to come true, and for our Black history people whose dreams did come true, maybe not even in their lifetime. But we can't give up, and we can't say that everything we wanted to accomplish, we've accomplished, because we can see that that's not true. My I had a dream is, I had a dream, a wondrous dream. It warmed me in the cold. It shined its light all over me. Its promise was foretold. Now, it picked me up when I was down, and it brought me through much more than I had thought that I could stand. It led me to a door that wouldn't open to my knock. I couldn't find the key. How to open up this door where all the promise be. How to pick the golden apple off the golden apple tree. How to find the magic lever that will set the jackpot free. I'm getting closer, getting closer. I see the magic circles gleam. I can almost reach to touch it. Must I awaken from this dream? So there are a lot of us that have dreams, and we have to pursue them. I'm getting ready to take a short break, but your comfort for today is Galatians 6 and 9. Be ye not weary in well-doing, for in due season ye will reap if you faint not. Because when you're well-doing, you do get weary. I've gotten weary many times, but God always renews our strength. Isaiah 40:31 says that they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on wings like an eagle. They shall run and not be weary, walk and not faint. And that is God's promises to us, and it's true. Also, if you're feeling down, remember Romans 12:2. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'm getting ready to take a break, but I want to remind you that Black History is being made right here on Victor Street in Highland Park, because R.J. Watkins and Henry Tyler have kept this TV station going for over 40 years. Now, I don't know the history of what went on in those 40 years, but I know to keep anything going for 40 years, it's a challenge. So I'm very grateful to them for having a dream, for pursuing the dream, and for giving people like me a voice to speak out. I will see you on the other side of the break. Please stay tuned.
When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for being born. I was just a boy, punished for a crime that was not mine.
Welcome back. My theme song, Ghetto Child, is one of the hits that my husband's group, the Spinners, one of their songs. And Ghetto Child reminds me of handicapped children, what goes on in their lives, because many of them are unaccepted and ridiculed and shamed. But my son's disability promoted my ability because he cannot talk. So it promoted me to talk. So talking about black history, you know, we started in Africa, in Dakar, Senegal, where we were put on slave ships and brought to this country. If you get to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, you can see an exhibit of how we were put in the slave ships, in the bottom of the ships, spoon fashion. And if there was any illness or any problems, some of us didn't make it. So the people that did make the crossing and get here in good health were the survival of the fittest. If you go to the Detroit Historical Museum, you will see an exhibit from the Underground Railroad, which is extremely interesting because it shows how it felt for the slaves to be hiding and slipping and sliding, peeping and hiding, and going in the woods and trying to get to freedom. And Harriet Tubman was one of the main conductors on the Underground Railroad. And thanks to her, they say that over 600 slaves were freed. So we can't forget our history. We can't forget where we came from. We can't forget that as of 1863, we weren't allowed to learn how to read. We weren't allowed to go to school. We were 3/5 of a person. So we must be proud of our heritage. We must be proud of all that we accomplished. They took us from one continent and brought us to another. So we were removed from our continent and our culture. And that's a way to keep people under control. So the people that fought against it, such as Frederick Douglass, we talked about Frederick Douglass before, who wrote books about anti-slavery, who learned how to read when we weren't allowed to read. There was a Mary McLeod Bethune, who started a school in Florida. And it was called the Girls Normal and Industrial School. And it was for black girls. That school is now Bethune-Cookman College. It's still in existence. Mary McLeod Bethune was an advisor to President Franklin Roosevelt on minority affairs. So that was a great accomplishment. Another school that got started was Tuskegee Institute, that's still going on now. And that was started by Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was born into a slave family in 1856, but he was chosen to lead Tuskegee Institute. It grew under his leadership. It promoted industrial education so that blacks could have economic independence. Booker T. Washington was also a writer. He wrote Up From Slavery. He was one of the people that helped get the Civil Rights Act passed. The 13th Amendment of the Constitution abolished slavery and restored rights to blacks. But we did not get all the rights that were supposed to be restored to us. So we still have to make sure we don't lose those rights, because even though we were free, we still weren't allowed to vote. The Voting Rights Act didn't get passed until the 1900s. Susan Taylor, who was a writer for Essence magazine, she's not from far history, she's from recent history. And Susan Taylor wrote books, but one of her books was called Lesson in Living. And she talked about karma, that what you put out into the universe is what you get back from the universe. And I say that's the same as you reap what you sow, and what goes around comes around. So some of the words of our ancestors ancestors need to be repeated and resurrected, because we can forget the feeling of rising to a challenge and overcoming obstacles. It's hard nowadays, so you know how hard it was back then. Another person that I want to talk about who really rose to a challenge, and she's from our recent history too, Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was a poet, actress, dancer. Maya Angelou did great many things. Maya Angelou wrote a poem called Still I Rise. And it's a poem that's worthy of being remembered, repeated, resurrected, because it's a very important part of our history. Still I Rise, Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moon and like suns, the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds sparkling in my eyes? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide, I rise. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wonderfully clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. That's from Maya Angelou. I rise, and so can you. It's wonderful to know that we have that kind of a history where we've been inspired to do things, and it's nice to know that those of us with a voice can speak out and celebrate these people. They are worthy of being celebrated. Some other recent people who are important in black history is Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison, I won't even try to tell you the books that she wrote. She wrote many books, and she won a Nobel Prize for Literature, which is a super accomplishment, a wonderful accomplishment. You know that Martin Luther King also won the Nobel Prize, and so did Barack Obama. So for them to have accomplished that amount, something that great, is really inspiring. And I hope it's inspiring to you too. We have Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan was a politician who was one of the most accomplished black politicians. Barbara Jordan gave a speech at the Democratic National Convention. I'm not sure what year it was, but she was wonderful in that speech. She also served at the Watergate hearings. During the Watergate time is when they were investigating Richard Nixon, and Barbara Jordan was one of the people that served on those hearings. She was a wonderful example. And her life, she did not live a long life, but she accomplished a great deal during the time that she was living. And she is worthy of being admired and respected. So I don't know how many of you saw the movie Hidden Figures, but Hidden Figures is about three black women that worked for NASA during the time that we didn't have equality. And these women helped NASA by doing a lot of mathematical things that I don't understand, but it helped with the rockets. It helped them figure out what to do. And one of our astronauts would not even go into space until one of these women went over the figures and said that it could be done. Because if you remember back then, even now, it's hard to know that it can be done. But just think, we had no idea that in the space program there were three black women who helped the space program, and one of them is still alive now. I think her name is Johnson. So she did live long enough to see them get recognition. So to be inspired by these people, it's the job of some of us to remind the rest of us that this is going on. So we know that everyone is not inspired by our ancestors. We know that we still have people who are not living up to their potential and not living up to the dream. But that's not me, and that's not you. Because if you're watching this show, that means you are one of the people that appreciate black history and appreciate what our ancestors have done. And you can be inspired, and you can inspire. What inspires you? Think about what inspires you. And it's easy to inspire someone else. And it doesn't hurt. It's back to what I said about comfort. A spoonful of comfort, the very minimum that you can give somebody. Your comfort is your smile, your kind word, your soft answer that turns away wrath. So giving comfort is easy. Inspiring, sometimes inspired is very difficult. My book, Inspired by Autism, I called it Inspired by Autism because the fact that my son can't talk inspires me to talk. So there is something that can inspire you, even if you're in the dark, if you're going through something. Remember, you're going through something. It's going through. You'll come out on the other side. And one of my favorite songs, which I will do you the favor of not singing it to you, "The Lord Will Make a Way." The words to that song: like a ship that's tossed and driven and battered by an angry sea, when the storms of life are raging and the fury falls on me, I wonder just what I have done that makes my race so hard to run. And then I say to my soul, don't worry, the Lord will make a way somehow. That's another inspiring song. I don't know if you've heard the song, "Nobody Told Me the Road Would Be Easy, but I can't believe he brought me this far to leave me." We need things to keep us going when it's hard to keep going. I've been down. I was down because of my son's handicap, because I was trying to get him cured. I did not realize that he could not be cured. I thought we were in America and this is space age, and we're sending people to the moon, and we're doing all these things. So of course we can cure someone with autism. But I was wrong. We could not cure him. So one day when I was praying and, Lord, what am I supposed to do about this child? The answer came just as clear. You accept the person that I gave you. And once I realized that, okay, I am his mother. If I don't accept him, who will? So whatever you're going through, and that that was my depression, because I said, this is not something that's going to end. It's not something I'm going through. This is something that will be with me forever. But Norman Vincent Peale said, once you change your attitude about a fact, you change your situation. So once I changed my attitude about autism, and it wasn't this horrible burden for me to deal with, it became a challenge. And now it's a blessing, because I can do things for my son. I can help my son. And there is someone that you can help. So it's really important for us to remember our history, to accept our knowledge of what people accomplished. Maya Angelou's poem, I Rise. We can all rise. They had to rise. They would not have accomplished what they did if they didn't rise. You can rise above your circumstances. You can rise to the challenge. And many of us have done that. And that's the other thing I want to impress about our folks from Black history. They had to rise to the challenge. They had a lot to overcome. They had far more to overcome than we do. So it's time for me to sign off. I'll be with you again next Tuesday at 1:30 right here on WHPR TV 33. Please tune in for A Spoonful of Comfort. And you can reach me at Jackson Claudreen, CLAUDREEN, at sbcglobal.net. That's my email address. You can email me. You can reach me at the post office box. I would like to know what your thoughts are about Black history, and what inspires you, and what gives you comfort. And until next week, may the power of God protect you. May the presence of God watch over you. May the love of God enfold you. Until next time, I'm Claudreen Jackson signing off. Please tune in next Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for A Spoonful of Comfort.
When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick